what it's like to survive your own personal apocalypse. So what I'm doing in this is I want to interview people who have faced death and then did not die, and investigate what was required in their thinking process to proceed. What happens when you take the idea of a future for granted, then you lose the idea of a future, and then you have to relearn the thinking that incorporates the idea of a future. Would you call yourself afraid of death before you even knew about HIV?
Yes. Yes.
Did you think about it much?
A lot.
I had never really actually thought about my own death.
And so when you were diagnosed, did the fear go up, or were you...
Yeah, actually there was this like really acute moment when it wasn't so much I was diagnosed, but I had gotten some bad medical news, and I felt my own lymph nodes, and at that point I knew. And I remember hitting the floor and crying, and then thinking about my father, and thinking that if he was alive, he would have protected me.
Then what I realized was, like, this is the kind of death where you've got, like, at least a couple of years' notice. And I thought, okay, with a 2-year window of opportunity, I can think about what I want to do with that period of time.
So did you associate your own likelihood, expectation of death with drug addiction?
Absolutely.
And how fearful were you of it?
Not afraid at all, because I knew what the outcome was going to be, and that was going to be death.
And you're ready for it?
I was as ready as one, completely nonplussed by it. It was just what was going to happen, a fact.
Okay. If an asteroid was headed to the Earth and 90% of the population would be wiped out, would you want to be one of the few to survive?
Would I want to be? No. Would I be? More than likely, I would be. I'm a survivor like that. I kind of I tend to usually make it through. So
I just didn't know why I had been spared, and it was very confusing and very disorienting for me. But then as I began to improve and reestablish myself within a social circle, and then began to volunteer, and then that volunteering led to the career that I have now. I mean, then I became more and more stable as time passed. But there was a period there where I was even oddly resentful of surviving.
So it was difficult for a lot of guys to get back to work. And like I said, it was only the few lucky ones that sort of repurposed their lives and said, okay, I'm going to do something altruistic. I'm going to devote myself to, AIDS, HIV medicine care. I'm going to devote myself to, helping youth out. I'm going to devote myself to addiction recovery programs or whatever. But as long as they found a purpose, I think they got happy again. But a lot of them are, they're sort of living and they're not sure what they're doing.
Yeah. Did you find you had to readjust your brain to learning to think with the idea that you're going to be around?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How's your conception of the future changed, and how has your fear of death changed?
I use death now a lot to keep asking myself, am I doing the best about what I can do with my everyday life? So I think it helps that way. I also, I am aware of this sort of weird sadness, like this sense of feeling like I wonder how the story turns out. And so the thought of like leaving this life and moving on to something unknown, other thing, or nothing, just makes me so sad.
Being in Afghanistan and all my other deployments, they kind of taught me two things. One is how fragile life is. Like I think when you're younger and you're before you go overseas, you kind of think you're not invincible, but that it'll happen to the other guy, or you're not really thinking that much about your mortality. Afterwards, though, you start realizing how easily a life can end. I mean, just at the blink of an eye.
So what has it been like for you to learn how to have a future again?
It's been wonderful. It's been like a newborn child coming back into life. It's just, it's amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
How about you?
None of your fucking business.